Evening guys, and welcome to episode 24 of Import Nights, the review series for GranTurismo's JDM performance car selection, a very popular category of vehicles, and a really good one overall, very strong in terms of performance and value for money. So all round, Japanese performance cars are actually very difficult to beat in terms of what they offer for the money especially. Now this particular vehicle is popular more as a platform than necessarily as a specific model, because of course it's the Nissan S chassis platform. Now we've reviewed a couple of S14, S15, etc. specific Silvia vehicles which are based on the same chassis of course, but this is the first slight deviation from those Silvia based machines. This is, as you will of course have seen from the title, the Nissan 240 SX. Now there are a few different versions of a very similar vehicle to this on the game. You've got the SIL 80, the 240 SX, the 200 SX, I believe also the 180 SX, and a couple of others which are all very similar. Now I haven't purchased every single one of them to find out which one is the strongest. That's something which you will have to do if you're a fan of the car. But I've chosen the 240 SX in particular just to do the overview of this model range as a whole. That is the SX based range. Now this vehicle is probably best known for drifting on GranTurismo. You tend to see it used more for that than anything else, but it also happens to be one of the quickest 2-litre engine vehicles in the game, and also one of the quickest 4-cylinder vehicles in the game in a straight line, particularly for top-end speed. If you ever go into a lobby, and there are some on Special Stage Route X, for vehicles that are 4-cylinder or around 2 litres in capacity, this will always be among the quickest vehicle in the room. Now that's something to be noted. That's a strong point for this car. But apart from that, what do you get? Well, the price for a start on this car is pretty good, to say the least. It's just under 25 grand. That's basically hot hatch money. That undercuts other vehicles like Skylines, Supras, etc. by quite a bit. That's roughly, say, half the price of something like a Supra or a Skyline. That's pretty good value, potentially. But what do you get for that price? Well, you get, as we said, a 2-litre engine. You can turbocharge that engine up to a pretty decent 521 horsepower. So as far as this series goes, it's actually not quite as powerful as some others, but at the same time powerful enough to get the job done. It puts out 406 foot-pounds of torque, which is pretty decent for its engine size, and it is very, very lightweight. In the case of the 240 SX in particular, 1,022 kilos is pretty impressive, given that this is a decent sized car. The horsepower per tonne is 510, which is also pretty good, and the PP when fully tuned is possibly a little too high at 543. I think this car would be better suited to have a maximum of maybe 530 or 535 at a push, but we can't change that, that's just the way it is. Now, if you're going to race a vehicle like this, of course it's down to personal preference, what you find works best for you, etc. But I would recommend a car like this for anywhere between 450 and 500 pp in particular. Anything above that, and it doesn't really have the low-end acceleration. The mid-range and especially top-end performance is very good on the SX vehicles. Low-end, not so much. It's a bit of a laggy car, and it's just not as quick or as impressive as the rest of its acceleration. As far as handling, that is also a very good point, because the handling on this car can be built and changed to pretty much do whatever you need it to. It can be built to be very stable at high speeds, which of course is important for top speed racing, but at the same time you can make a few minor adjustments and make it into an excellent drift car. Then you can make some more adjustments and make it into a very good grip and cornering based vehicle for track racing. It's got range, and that's something which you really need from a good all-round performance car. One-trick ponies are cool, but vehicles which can do more than one thing are obviously better, especially in terms of value. What you get for the money will always be more impressive if it has more than one trick up its sleeve, and the SX chassis vehicles definitely do. They make good drift cars, drag cars, and circuit races, and those are, of course, the three primary categories which you're going to need them for. You could potentially use it for rallying, but it's not really ideally suited for that. The fact that it has slightly sluggish lower-end performance and also rear-wheel drive just aren't really that conducive to rallying. It's okay as a rally car, but not necessarily amazing. Something like a Skyline or any other all-wheel drive vehicle will pretty easily beat an SX around a dirt or snow track. Overall though, if you're a fan of SX vehicles, say the 180, the 200, the 240, the Salati even, which is, I would say, one of the better models and the more interesting ones, you won't be disappointed. It's a very strong car. It has strong performance. The performance goes beyond the spec and definitely beyond the price, and the overall value that you get and the range that you get is really good. Personally, I prefer the slightly different looking model of the 240SX, which isn't actually on the game, the one which doesn't have the rear wing and isn't quite as beefy looking with the body kit. I believe it's the model that was featured on some games such as Need for Speed, that more base model looking version. I personally like that version the most, but of course it's not featured on the game currently. If you're a fan of these cars, as I said, you won't be disappointed. It's a really good car. If you're looking for insane power or insane performance, not necessarily. You'd be better off with something like a Skyline, but overall this is a strong and kind of undervalued performance vehicle. It has a strong following from fans, but non-fans tend to overlook the car a bit, and it's not deserving of that. But overall, that's it for this particular pick. I will see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.